Hi. Okay, I want to speak briefly on is poverty godly? After Pastor Korede Komaya's video where he said, I shall never follow a poor pastor, there's been quite a ruckus, as usual. Sadly, even amongst most of this pushback has been from his fellow pastors. And I believe that's, most unfortunate. Now, what is poverty? Let's begin from an understanding of what poverty entails. What is poverty? Now, poverty at its barest levels, means a lack of basic necessities: food, clean water, housing, and clothing. That is the basic understanding of poverty. If you lack food, clothing, clean water, and shelter or housing, then you're poor. But beyond this, poverty also includes a lack of opportunities. Now, what does this mean? Some of us, because of where we've gone to schools, either in Nigeria or out of Nigeria, or the places we've worked prior to now, we have been able to form an association, of solid relationships, strategic relationships, that we have a solid network of friends, built over the decades that we could easily leverage on in times of need to convert to opportunities. Now, if you haven't been to those schools or worked in some of those places, you don't have such opportunities. You're denied such opportunities. I mean, sometimes when I check my phone, if I want to call a governor and I type governor, I would see a long row of governors, or even minister. I would see a long list of ministers. So if you don't have this network, then you are considered poor. Remember the phrase, your network of friends, of relationships, is positively correlated to your net worth. Let me repeat that. Your network of friends, of relationships, of associations is positively correlated to your net worth. Because when the chips are down, you ought to be able to convert these relationships to opportunities. Also, poverty also means a lack of education, formal education, and importantly also marketable skills, a lack of marketable skills. For instance, if you have a skill of repairing exotic cars, Rolls Royces, Lamborghini, Porsche, Maserati, Bugatti, and such vehicles, you can never be poor because those vehicles are not common. Some parts of those vehicles are more expensive than entire vehicles. So if you have the skills of repairing those vehicles, you can be poor. If you make good kaftans, like the guys who make my own kaftans, or the kaftans I wear, they are not poor. In fact, because to make those kaftans are expensive. I know people pay 10 times, 20 times what I pay, and they don't complain. So those guys are rich. So can you cook? Can you bake? Can you make furniture? And are you good? Are you excellent in what you do with your hands? You can't be poor. Now, let's get deeper. What exactly is good about poverty? Let's examine some consequences of poverty. Let's speak factually. What are the consequences of poverty? Number one, poverty results in shame and reproach. Poverty will rob a man or woman of their dignity, their decency, their honor, their glory. Number two, poverty results in premature death. For instance, someone is sick and you rush them to the emergency ward of an hospital and they say drop money, but you don't have money. People die. Okay, just buy medications for diabetes or blood pressure, or some antibiotics. Cost a fortune sometimes, and people can't pay and they die. Now, number three, poverty makes people become susceptible to sin, to crime, to apostasy. A poor person will deny God faster than a rich person. A poor person will compromise on their faith, on their beliefs faster, than a rich person. Number four, poverty results in unfulfilled destinies. How do you fulfill your destiny, whatever it is, without money? It's hardly going to be possible. Another, effect of poverty results in zero influence or impact. A poor person has zero influence or impact. You cannot impact anything or anybody. Another effect, even a poor person but who is wise, a poor man or woman who is wise, will be disrespected or disdained eventually. Another effect, poverty makes one become voiceless. you become nothing but mere economic statistics. That's why you begin to hear of phrases such as, oh, we have 20 million out of school children, or we have the highest rate of infant and maternal mortality rates, or we have 33% unemployment rate. Those are all economic statistics where they lump all the poor people together because the rich people do not belong, in those woeful and negative economic statistics. Another, effect of poverty. Poverty makes, poor people become hateful, bitter, envious, sick, and cynical. So you see a poor person, when they see rich people drive past or walk past, they sneak and say, oh, he has stolen money, or he's a ritualist, or he's a murderer. Mind you, not everyone who is rich. Most people who are rich by either they invested wisely, or they made money through the course of their careers, or they parlayed, they marketed their skills, their talents. Most of our footballers, Victor Osimhen, Alex Iwobi, Calvin Bassey, they are rich. Kanu Wako, or even way back, JJ Okocha, they became rich because of their talents as footballers, global footballers. Look at musical stars currently, Davido, Wizkid. These are global, musical artists and icons. Stupendously wealthy because of their talents and their skills, as musicians. So, but the poor person, once this is a rich person, pass by, they become hateful, they become envious, they become cynical. That's what poverty does. Now, lastly, poverty breaks families. Poverty destroys homes. It destroys families. Poverty turns the sons of poor people to scammers, to yahoo, to ritualists, political thugs. Poverty turns the sons of poor people to political thugs. There's a current federal minister going around with his son that he trained abroad. He even sits with him in cabinet meetings before the PAMSEC and directors, because the son is a son of a big man. So he sits with his father in official meetings. Now this same politician, this same federal minister, when he needs to do some dirty job that politicians do, he will not call his son. He will call the sons of poor people, the daughters of poor people, to go do those dirty jobs, for him. Now, poverty turns the sons and daughters of poor people to gatesmen, to servants, to security guards, to cooks, to laborers, to gardeners, etc. And these are even good. Worse, the sons of poor people become thieves, they become kidnappers, terrorists, bandits, etc. Now, worse still, poverty turns wives, daughters, and sisters to prostitutes. Forgive me, I forget we don't use that word anymore, So let me rephrase that. Poverty turns wives, daughters, and sisters to oloshos, to runs girls, etc. These fanciful words that we use to color the evil of this generation. Like I said, ultimately, poverty ruins lives. Poverty destroys lives. Nigeria is the way it is currently because of the high rate of poverty in our society. The social fabric has been eaten up, has been corrupted, has been destroyed because of the rampant, unchecked, unmitigated levels of poverty in our midst. Now, in the next part, I will talk on the views of the Bible on wealth and poverty, and what the Bible promises Christians. The two things the Bible promises Christians. I'll speak about this in the next episode. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.